All right, I think we are live. Hello, it is Thursday, July 13th, 2017 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Marketing Live. I am your host, Amy Jorgensen. On today's live broadcast, we'll be talking with MIT about organic growth. MIT has never boosted or paid for a social media ad, yet they have been able to organically grow their Instagram followers from 3,000 to more than 3,800 in less than 2 years. Tune in. Today we're going to talk more about MIT's social strategy, content generation, and how they've leveraged their globally recognized brand. Marketing Live is part of Higher Ed Live Network. Our episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Be a part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. Participate in today's discussion by tweeting us using hashtag HigherEdLive. All of our episodes are free and easy to access in video archives at higheredlive.com. Or you can take Higher Ed Live with you on the go by subscribing to the podcast. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. An accessible site is a highly usable site for everyone, and it's time to make it a priority. M. Stoner's accessibility checkup provides actionable information to help your website comply with legal requirements and improve site performance for 7 major user characteristics. Interested to learn more? We are tweeting a link right now. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Jenny Lee Fowler from MIT. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, how are you?
We are very excited to have you here with us today. And I think we're going to dive right into the questions. And again, if anyone has any questions, do not hesitate to use hashtag HigherEdLive. I'll do my best to ask the questions to Jenny as they come in, but I'm going to start off with a few questions of my own.
Great.
So what are your social media goals?
Yeah, that's a big one, right? I think that just like everyone else, social media is a tool in our toolbox, right? So through our efforts, we really wanted to support the messaging priorities of the Institute and our president, and ultimately there are conversations and sentiments that we want to move the needle on using our social media channels. And also it gives us an opportunity to show MIT's culture to a global audience, show our fun and quirky side that, people won't necessarily get to see unless they visit campus or experience campus firsthand. So I would say, like, broadly speaking, those are our general goals. It's just different because I've got the perspective of the main channels. Like if you talk to my colleagues that are in admissions, they would have different goals as well. So they deal with more of the prospective student side and part of things. But from us, we really look at it as a tool to really help push our institute-wide messaging.
Wonderful. I think that's a really good point and a good strategy. So let's start off with the meat and potatoes. Why are you not paying for social media promotions? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, well, you're gonna laugh, but at first, I never had a budget. I mean, I'm literally before I was here, I worked at Harvard Kennedy School, and I didn't have a budget to work with, so it was really out of necessity. But the funny thing is what started out as not having a choice, kind of, I guess, has become a strategy that's working for us. I think I think at this point, I get the perception that, I don't know, there's a little bit of, it's not an exact science, right? When you pay for, if you boost posts on Facebook, you have an idea of what you're getting and you have an idea of who it's going to, but it's not an exact science. But anecdotally, I will tell you that when we went to, I recently took the administrative side of our Facebook account onto a business manager account, which is, how you pay for ads, or you're familiar with that, right, Amy? And so I finally moved us to that platform to manage our page, and people would say to me, and my colleagues from actually globally, even in Ireland and different segments of the world would say, let me know if your numbers, if your reach changes or if your reach decreases, or keep an eye on that. And because people, were saying, once I went to business manager, I noticed that our, our reach numbers drastically decreased. And so I thought, oh gosh, okay, that's great. What did I do? And so I kept a close eye on that. And I noticed that they had dipped a little bit when I first went on to Business Ad Manager, but because we didn't pay, so I wasn't immediately paying for ads, or we didn't pay for ads, it went back to where it was normally. So it was almost like our numbers returned because I don't know, this is all, I don't really, it's all like an anecdote and just my guessing, but I think, they realized, well, they're not kind of buying ads immediately, so something returned to where our normal reach was. And so just to give you a sense of the numbers, and I kind of looked at our averages from last month. And last month, so I will say last month included commencement, so our numbers are a little bit skewed. But last month, our average Facebook post reach was 147,700. So you tell me if that's pretty good. I'm happy.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's a little skewed because it's with commencement. So I thought, okay, that's really inflated. So what's this month? So we're halfway into this month, and our reach this month is much less, but our average reach is 68,700, which I'm still really happy with, right? So, like I always look at our posts, and if by the end of the day, whatever I posted that day, if it's not at 20,000, just by end of business day, I think it's not as good of a performing post, or something is wonky. That's kind of how I view it. And of course it grows from there, right? But that's our average. Our average number of reactions per day. And I think the way Insights shares their metrics, they give you a per day number. And for last month, it was 3,400. Our average reactions per link was 560. So that's just per link. Average reactions per photo were 1,200, and average reactions per video were 2,400. So I just feel like because we've never paid for an ad, we haven't messed with the algorithms behind our page. Now, this is totally a guess, and I'm sure there are people out there that might have their own theories or disagree, but I just feel like since we've never messed with it at all, it's just pure. The growth is just purely pure at this point. So
I think you're right on, because I've noticed a dip after I pay for a promotion, either for an event or for a specific campaign message, that there is a huge dip afterwards in regards to our reach.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating. And also sometimes I'll look at the organic interaction with content versus the paid interaction.
Yeah.
And oftentimes percentage wise, the organic reach and the organic interaction is higher. And that it decreases with sponsored, because people look at it and they see it's sponsored and they kind of go, I don't know if I want to interact with that.
That's interesting. But I also think as a manager of a page, when you see the number dip, I think you think, oh my gosh, and it's almost like I don't know, feeding a slot machine.
Yeah.
A little bit, like when you see the big numbers, and then you kind of get used to seeing those big numbers, and the first time you don't boost an ad, the numbers decrease. And I think how do you explain for that? Like if you're a manager and you have to show numbers to a person, like someone that you report to, and all of a sudden there's this big dip, I think it's just hard to explain that, I think. So it's easy to fall into the temptation of constantly boosting posts. Again, I'm happy I'm happy to listen to the other side of the argument, but this is just kind of how I feel. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it comes across more authentic. So you talked a little bit about at the end of the day, if a post on Facebook, for example, does not have, I think you said 20,000 reach, you assess the content and see whether or not you should post content like that in the future. So some really good social listening there. Can you address a little bit about what kind of content have you learned? What are some examples where you're like, this worked really well, a picture of a puppy, but this didn't work well, a picture of a walrus? I don't know. Right. Although we do love walruses, but.
Yes, of course. Well, I think, so absolutely, that's actually what we base our strategy on, is to have, and our growth is to have an evidence-based social content strategy, right? That's based solely on evidence. So just like what people are responding to. For us at MIT, I mean, we know our audience knows what to expect from us, and we know what our audience likes. It's usually research, it's things on the techie side, it's things with like a little bit of a quirky sense of humor. So things like Pi Day are totally, that's in our wheelhouse. Star Wars Day, those are all, I mean, I think people expect to see something from us on those days, but what we try to deliver is something, I mean, they're expecting to see a post, but we try to surprise them with something a little bit different, right? So I think that's, that has always worked. And when you can kind of, what I call call it a social intersection with a weather intersection. Like when you're having a social event with a weather event and you can capitalize on both of it, it's just, to me, it's just what I call social media gold. So for instance, we had Pi Day, but then also we had a huge snowstorm this year on Pi Day. And my colleague who's just, I mean, she just has a knack for this stuff, Maya Weinstock, and she's amazing. But she had the best idea to go outside and make a pie out of snow because it was snowing. And so it was just pie, but it was like molded out of snow. And she took a picture, and we just said, happy snowy Pi Day or something like that, and did like 3 snowflake emojis, and it just did gangbusters, So I think anytime you can, I call it an intersection, like you can take 2 events and mold it into one and capitalize on that. Like I think it does really well, and it speaks to knowing your audience, and it speaks to being timely, all these things that I know social media managers know, right? But if you can kind of remember all of those things in our busy day-to-day lives and kind of and create something clever like that, it always performs really well.
I think that kind of responsiveness, where you assess everything that's coming out, you look at what's happening, you make sure that you're staying relevant and connecting with your audience, and using that as the foundation to build really good content, and that's how you're able to grow. I think that's so smart.
Right. Thank you. But yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So I think that if you you have no budget, right? We're not going to do any ads. We just have to really, it comes down with the content, which I love because, at heart, I'm a storyteller, and it always just comes down to content. And I know, I used to tell different stories in different mediums, but I still think it's storytelling. So I think when it comes down to it, I think if your content is really, really good, people will find you no matter what platform you're on. I think there is a lot of people are feeling obligations to be in every single platform. And I know at MIT we've got we've got departments, and then we've got smaller labs, and we have centers, and we have initiatives, and they all have one communications person. And I think a lot of times they feel the burden of having to be in every single platform. But I often tell them, just choose one, just to choose one that resonates with them. And if they do that really well, or fits their content, they do it really well, people will find you. I really believe that.
And I think it's really important, like you're saying, that you're developing content with your audience that connects to your audience. And so often universities, small or large, try to talk to their audiences, not with them. And once you're talking to them, you lose them. You know, they're not going to pay attention anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you started, so you obviously didn't start off. How many Facebook followers does MIT have right now?
So we're like at 900, we're so close to 1 million. So I'm like, we're like 999,000 followers. So when I started, I thought you might ask me this, Amy. So I wrote down some numbers. But when we started Facebook, we had 662,000. And that's a little bit under 2 years ago.
Okay. So how much growth did you see every month? You know, what are you looking at when you're growing organically? Like how much growth are you kind of seeing and kind of anticipating with your content? Did you see like a huge influx with certain times of the year? Because I mean, how many students do you have at your university overall?
Oh gosh. You know, I'm going to give you a number and it's going to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I should know this, but I don't have a figure right off the top of my head. But which is really bad, right? I should really know that. But I think like overall, we've had about, it's been slow, but every month it's been an average of like 2% growth month after month. Some months it's larger, right? That might maybe like a 5%. Sometimes we might get like 1.4%, but generally I would say in Facebook, we've had a 2% growth every month.
Well, here's what's so impressive about this. So I pulled up the numbers because
great. Okay.
And so there are 11,376 students enrolled at MIT.
Okay, great.
So there's
13,000, but I know it's going to be wrong, so I don't want to say. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's okay. So you have about 11,000 students at MIT. 4,500 of them are undergrads, and 6,800 of them are graduate students. So you're looking at not a super big school. I mean, this isn't, you know, the what is it? Texas A&M that's got 60,000 students or 50,000 students, but you're able to really cultivate a huge audience and by starting off with the content development and getting people sucked into stuff. So and also making sure you're really relevant. And I think that's really smart. Because people would look at your numbers of you have a million followers. Well, it's like, oh, they've got to be a huge school. You're not a huge school.
Well, you know? Okay. Yeah, no, so I appreciate that, but I think that it was probably one of the topics you wanted to cover later, but I think it speaks to MIT's global draw, right?
Yeah.
Like MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is known around the world for being leaders in innovation and science, innovative in science and mathematics and technology and biomedicine, so I think that people are genuinely interested in the research, the news, the developments that come out of MIT. So they follow us. So we're very mindful that it's not just this MIT community or it's not just alum, it's this global audience. But at the same time, the people who are interested in that kind of content are people that like Pi Day and Tau Day jokes, and it's all kind of a part of the culture. So and I think when you find a community like that appreciates the same humor or gets into like number jokes like you do and in a public space, I think you feel a kinship to that. And yeah, so I think that's what I attest to. I mean, it's really the brand which always helps, right? And delivering the content that the community is that likes, appreciates, has come to expect, but you continually surprise them, I think is good.
So we have a great question from APU alumni.
Great.
So how do you balance posting what is relevant to your organization and what your audience likes on social media?
So I mean, I would like to think it's all relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think that it's all relevant, right? So what they like versus what's relevant, is that what the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
yeah.
sometimes, like I was speaking with the University of Florida Health System, and they're like, okay, we have all these news releases that we want to put out here, which are very official and all that. And how do you balance that along with, you know, posts that you want to put out there that will engage with your audience, like the Pi Day, that may not be official research. And I think this might tie in a little bit to a question from Samantha of, you know, aligning individual school accounts with like a persona to the university overall. You know, like what are some things that you can do?
Well, so what's we obviously, absolutely, we share what's relevant. So all of the work that is coming out of our MIT news office. I mean, one problem that's really nice to have is I have no lack of content. I mean, it's you know, there is just a lot of content that is being generated at MIT, and part of it's because we have this awesome news office, and they have a staff of writers, and they have beats, and you know, like any sort of newsroom, and they're producing articles on the research, and you know, all that's coming out of MIT, and so that we share that, right? We post their work, and that's, we feel like, all relevant. It's what our community is interested in. But again, I think, you know, when we post things that show our sense of humor, or you know, when people, you know, one thing that I've learned is, you know, there are brilliant minds, but they're equally creative and funny, you know, and so you know, it's this blend of art and science, and we like to showcase all of that on our social media channels. Again, you know, I said one of our goals was to help people experience the culture, or what we like to say, the magic of MIT. That's here, and the social media channels are really a way to let that shine, because they're social. In a sense, you know, we get to use emojis on a regular basis, and no one thinks it's unprofessional. It's, you know, it's a playful, like, you know, at the end of the day, it's still social media, and you know, I can't take that too seriously, right? Because you should be playful with it, but it is, I do think of it as one body of work, where, you know, when you go to any one of our social media platforms, and you look, you know, if you look at our timeline, you know, I want it to be diverse. I want it to show our research and our faculty and our students and our fun side, you know, because that's all what is a part of MIT. And I want you, when you do come to our timeline, when you're deciding to follow us or not, that, you know, this is a place where you can really find like the culture, or like, oh, I get it. You know, I get what it might feel like to, you know, walk the infinite corridor, or I get what sort of artwork is coming out of here. And wow, I didn't realize it's not just all trigonometry and problem sets. You know, they play Quidditch at, you know, MIT. Of course, we play Quidditch at MIT. But you know, I'm sorry.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. Yes. And that I feel like that's my job, right? To show that side, that if a post makes you say, wow, I didn't know that about MIT, then I feel like that I've done my job, right? So, but of course we have to post what you would expect from MIT as well. So I think it's all part of it. So I don't think I have to decide one or the other. If anything, I like to try to make it so that we're not just posting about the same thing, you know, like in a row, right? Like we want to kind of strategize so it's like spanned out a little bit. And
I love that diversity, because that's what being at a university is. I mean, you're not just going to classes. You also are being silly with your friends, and you're also doing research, and you're also excited about graduation. And I mean, it's a very diverse experience. It's not all siloed.
Right. I mean, but the thing is, like at a University of Michigan, right? Like with the Wolverines, everyone knows that they have a really great football team.
Yeah.
And, you know, at MIT, you know, they'll say, you have a football team? You know, that's part of sort of the misperceptions that we're combating. And I think social media is the best channel to do that through, or one of the best ways to do that through. So, yeah.
So what's your mascot?
Oh, a beaver.
Oh, hey, I did not expect that.
Nature's engineer, and his name is Tim.
That's so cute.
Yeah, which is MIT backwards.
That is so
Yeah.
cute.
But that's the thing is that there's a lot of like sort of, you know, in like not jokes, but like if you
Little
put a little thought to
idiosyncrasies that
it,
make it charming.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about yeah, and that's why we like to kind of show that through our social media sites.
I love that. Well, our next question, which I think ties in really well to a question that Samantha has. So, can we talk a little bit more about the different social media strategy platforms that you're using? And one of the questions Samantha had is how many people have access to the accounts? And do you think there's any struggle or benefit to having multiple account managers? So, can you talk a little bit about some of the platforms and how you manage those?
Sure. So I feel like there's like two. First, is this Samantha from Calgary by any chance?
This is Samantha from
Oh, I was just gonna say because if that's my friend, and I was gonna say hi, but
Plymouth. She's
but
from Plymouth, Mass.
okay, hello. But I
Very
was
cute
just
dog.
curious if it was like the Samantha that I knew. So it sounds like there's two questions. So one, do you kind of approach each platform a little differently, right? And two is if you have multiple managers for one is yes, like absolutely. I think that you know one of one of my big pet peeves even in my personal life is like when people you can tell people used one thing or one um, content manager to post in every single thing. Like if you post, it was an Instagram post, but they're sharing it everywhere, and you can tell. I don't know. That bugs me. But I think that like Facebook posts, you know, should look different from a Twitter. I mean, you have more characters, and you have you have more space to play with, and the feel of Facebook is different, and your audience is a little bit are different, right? And obviously Instagram, like the photo, like there are things that we post on Facebook and Twitter that doesn't necessarily go on Instagram because we know it probably won't play as well. Um, so yes, absolutely, right? We've got different strategies. We post at different times, like Twitter's just a beast, so we post up to 6 times a day. Facebook will do at least once, but sometimes up to 3. But sometimes I might have a lot of stuff that's going on, so I don't limit myself, but at least once. And in Instagram, we'll post somewhere between 3 to 6 times a week. So we don't even hold ourselves to like a daily posting in Instagram. I think it's just as regular for sure, right? Several times a week, but as the beautiful images or funny image comes in and it just plays well. We know it'll play well on Instagram, so we do that. And for multiple managers, I absolutely, I tell everyone that social media is a team sport. Um, I need to I need to find another analogy because this one's horrible. But like, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, like someone needs to be able to pick up, pick up where I left off, know all the passwords, and post, and no one should know the difference, right? Like, hopefully my family will know a difference, but no one will know a difference. And so I think that's really important. And I do so I we've got I'm not just creating the content. I mean I have an awesome team, and I've some of them have been here longer than I, so I've learned a ton from them, and hopefully I'm just doing what they taught me justice. But I directly post in Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus, and we have other people that manage like YouTube. I have a colleague that posts directly in Instagram, and she handles another main Twitter account, but it's purely focused on events. It's called MIT Events. So she posts in that, and I kind of supervise. I mean, I guess like she. I think you should always have someone look at your posts. I have people look at my posts because it's easy to I might have fat fingers that day and I have a typo, or like I might be running to another meeting, so I forgot to put the link in there. Like there's nothing technically wrong with it, but those things, other people should be looking at your posts every day. So absolutely, I think multiple managers are fine. Now, if you're talking about like having one person post daily in one channel, like two people posting daily in a channel, that's a little bit different. I don't know that I would have two people handling the day-to-day posting in Instagram, but definitely there are people that contribute, that act as editors, and then if that person goes on vacation, I should be able to like pick up where they left off, and that person should go on vacation and not worry about posting social for MIT while they're on vacation, right? So I'm a big believer in that. So it should be a team sport. So I hope I answered those questions, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I went on too long.
No, that's fantastic. I think we've gotten some really good ideas on how to manage it and how to make sure that the content is staying diverse and interesting, and at the same time, kind of spreading out some of the workload. I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about like the specific platforms you have and the different audiences in each of those platforms and how you're tailoring content towards those audiences? Because I mean, as much as my 17-year-old brother has tried, he's not going to get my mom into Snapchat. Right. So how are you tailoring content towards those? So talk about the platforms and the audiences you have.
Sure. So again, as you can do it's what I call digital detective work, right? Because nothing's going to list exactly like this person is a staff member and this person is an alumni. And like you get audience segments, you get age segments, and then you can kind of guess by what they're interacting with, what the audience is. So I'll start with Instagram. I think Instagram in general is the fastest growing social media platform out there, and and on ours, the posts that get the most engagement are like the nostalgic posts and sort of the jokes of the culture, right? We're sharing these little bits of our culture. So if we post a picture of the MIT Dome, it always gets incredible engagement, or any picture of campus. So we're just kind of like anecdotally thinking our biggest alumni or student population is in our Instagram channel, just because by what they're engaging with. So in Twitter, and this is probably not any surprise, but it's global, right? It's probably one of our most, I would say it and Facebook, most global. And just by what they're engaging with, it's a lot of the research. I would say it's a lot of the research. So we feel like it leans more of those that work in higher ed, or those that are in the field of science and technology, that do it for a profession. But again, they're interested in the culture of MIT. They're a fan of MIT. They're really interested in what comes out of here. So that's our sense of Twitter. And then Facebook, it's kind of what you can guess, right? It's global for sure, but it's like more students' parents would follow us on Facebook than anything else. But it still leans professional, because the research does always really well. So I know it's really broad, right? But we get these broad senses, and then you just kind of, make decisions of what to post in each based on what they're responding to. So.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I know here at UVA, students are like, oh, I'm not on Facebook, or yeah, I'm not going to do that because it's like not the cool thing anymore. But I'm telling you, they always say the two highest ways in which they hear about events or get engaged. Number one's email. Number two is Facebook, over Twitter and over Instagram, because they don't want to see, different promotions on Instagram. They want to see the story of what's happening while they're there. And so Facebook is such a great place to be like, hey, if you need to, don't forget your cap and gown. That's what you're going to put on Facebook. You're not going to put on Instagram.
So I don't know. Yeah, I thought we were kind of over that Facebook is passe thing. But no, absolutely. I think it was the Pew Research Center that came out and said if it's a 14-year-old is going to, if they sign up for a social media platform for the first time, like they turn 14, they just got their phone, the accounts that they open are like WeChat and Facebook, right? Everyone from the 14-year-olds to their grandparents are on Facebook. Like everyone is on Facebook. Like there are currently, what, 2 billion people on Facebook, and Facebook they're looking for their next 2 billion people. And there's like 7 billion people on the planet. So like half of them will belong to Facebook. Like I don't understand. Like everyone is on Facebook. So I often tell people, if you're going to do social and you don't know where to start, and you can't do all of the platforms, just do Facebook. Now you can post videos, so it'll archive your videos. You can post pictures. You can do live. You can sell things on. I mean, it's literally, you can call an Uber. Like it's becoming stickier and stickier. And I imagine they're just going to keep offering more and more options. That if you're going to do one, I always say that should be the one that you do, because your audience will find you there.
So do you work with any specific departments when they're developing, because I'm sure at MIT, like, the Department of Engineering has their own Facebook, and the Department of this other thing has their own Facebook. So,
Yeah.
So do you engage with those different departments and kind of help them in developing tone and language guidelines?
Okay, so we have like more than 200 department labs and centers in MIT, and all of them are on like a social media channel of some sort. So we do have, and so yes, a big part of my job is like advising and consulting. I don't. They know their department better than I do, so I go as far as to say that you should find your voice and make your tone and make it your own. And of course, it's like, find your like voice is different than tone. I mean, we kind of talk about those things, and we'll talk about best practices. But yes, I do a lot of that, and it's all across the board, right? Because there's a lot of one-man communication teams, and I totally feel for them, because it's they're doing everything. They're like writing the articles. They're promoting them. They are making videos. They are, they're doing everything, and they're doing social, and no one's helping them. So, I always tell them I am their teammate, right? So if they want to bounce an idea, or if they want me to look at something, that absolutely, that's what I'm here for. So I do that. I do that a lot.
So what would you say are your top 5 or so, best practices that you share with them? Because you talked like, we give them best practices and kind of give them some ideas. So what are some of the tips that you give them?
Well, I think sometimes it would be different. So, depending on, there are those that say, I've never been on Twitter, and my boss wants me to open a Twitter account. So help me, what do I do? And then, there are pros that are just, could be doing my job, right? Like, and so it kind of runs the gamut. But I generally would say, if you're saying 5 that like basic best practices, I would say always use an image, right? Like always. I feel like no matter what, no matter which platform, and size it to that platform, right? And so that it doesn't crop odd, because you can't control how it looks on their feed, right? Like, I don't know how many times like you see a photo, and then in Twitter you see this, you don't see it, you see this much, and that, and I see that, and I'm just kind of like, crop, all you have to do is crop. And I know it takes like another, like maybe 40 seconds to do that. But when you go to your feed, it just looks so much better, right? Mm-hmm. And always link to something, even no matter what, right? I have to say, like, there's this post that the University of Wisconsin did, and it sticks in my head because it was so good. It was a pop culture thing, and I don't. Are you a Game of Thrones watcher?
Yeah, Khaleesi.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole Hodor.
Yeah.
When that reveal, remember that was huge, and they had a post, and they took a picture of like a really beautiful ornate door on campus, on the campus of University of Wisconsin-Madison, and all they did was put "hold the door." So perfect.
Yes.
But if they had linked that to something,
Yeah.
right? That you know, I'm sorry. That tweet in itself was perfect. So,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, even when it's something like that, if you can link it to, always try to keep people within your universe, right? Like, you know, have them wanting more and clicking to the next thing. So if they could have, like, I don't know, like, I don't even know, like, linked to
Your architecture department.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like
We'll teach you how to hold the door in the architecture department.
exactly. That would have been actually that's brilliant. I mean, so there's always an opportunity to link to something. So always link it back to something within your universe, right? I mean, this I feel like this is stuff people know, but like tag, you know, tag other people. Anytime you can give people love, tag other people, give them credit for, you know, the posts that they do. Gosh, I don't, you know, I mean, yeah, it's like now I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really tough. Can I name 5? That and, you know, adhere, yeah. Link. I'm kind of trying, I'm having trouble coming up with 2 others that aren't super obvious. Like, I feel like this crowd would, you know, are pretty pro, they're pro at this. So, but you know, I'd say, like, if anything, don't be insincere in what you post. Like, for example, we talked about diversity, and that's really important, but don't force it, right? Like, still be authentic to what is representative of your campus, you know. So if you're trying to see more diverse, and there's like, if there is an Asian person and an African American person in every one of your posts, but then you go visit campus and you don't see any Asian people, or I mean, you know, it's not
so
authentic.
true.
Yeah, it's not authentic. So I would just say, like, keep to your authenticity, and I would say, do you, like, you know, don't worry about your number. Like, if you have an audience of 10, and the next year you have 25, you've grown it more than 100%, right?
Yeah.
And don't poo-poo that you have 25 followers, because those 25 followers are engaged in what you do, right? So just really take to heart what they like and do more of it, and more will come. So.
And the only way you're going to build more followers is if you're building content that those 24 really like. And so if you're not focusing on the content, like you said, keeping it authentic, making it diverse, so it's not the same thing over and over again, you're listening to what they're saying, try stuff, see if it works. If it doesn't, try something else. And I think that's brilliant that, you know, you're going to have, I'd much rather have 24 really engaged audience members than 1,000 that never look at our content, but we have 1,000 followers, you know. I think, and if you have that engaged, the following is going to automatically happen. I mean, look at George Takei. You know, no one was following him on Facebook, and then he started posting this stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, it's George!" Like, you got to follow him.
Yes.
And you know,
that's
people that aren't Star Trek fans are now following him, and he didn't go out there and say, "You got to follow me." He just had really good content.
I mean, he's got the zingers, like, in social media. I mean, I wish I could come up with that stuff, you know. I mean, it's brilliant. But yeah.
MIT.
Yeah. That's pretty good, Amy. Yeah.
All about the puns.
Yeah, absolutely. All, like, if seriously, like, if you have 25 followers, do not poo-poo. If they are liking every one of your posts, then that's 100% engagement. Like, who can say that? Like, that's awesome. I would rather have that than, you know, like 1 million that never engage, you know, with your.
Because then you just feel like you're talking into the void.
Yeah.
You know.
You're part of the noise, right? Or yeah.
All right. So I don't see that we have any other questions, and I think you've done a phenomenal job of answering all the questions that I had. And I know we kind of jumped around in the script, but that was fantastic. And you know, thank you so much for your time. This was so interesting. I got so many good ideas.
Okay.
I'm excited for Game of Thrones. I want to see what MIT is going to do after the next after Sunday, right? Sunday night.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we'll see. But I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks, Amy, for inviting me.
Yeah, this is great. And well, I'd also like to thank you always to our program sponsor, M. Stoner, and hope that everyone has a good day.